What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video from Pink Tourmaline. And in this one, we're going to be reviewing an NDE that I stumbled upon that has a lot of interesting elements that we want to explore, both positive and negative, that I want to talk about. And we can see some of the ways that there's some things that we can look at here that give us things to look out for in terms of the manipulation that we could be privy to, I think, on the other side. And so we're going to go through some of these elements. Now, I just want to say I am not coming out here and saying when I say she is manipulated that she is being dishonest in any way. I wholeheartedly believe her account, and she is recounting exactly what she experienced. And as I think most, if not all, of NDEers are recounting, they're recounting their true, authentic, honest recollections. Nevertheless, I think the encounters that they have with beings, those beings may have been deceptive. Those beings may have tried to mislead them. And I think you'll see when you look at what she experienced and what she discussed with a critical eye, a lot of the things that she was told, or a lot of things that happened on the other side, feel more likely to be manipulations than sincere statements or observations or whatnot. So we're going to go through and break this apart. The last thing that's really important that I want you guys to be on the lookout for is the fact that I do think in all of these NDEs, of course, it can't just be pure lies. So everything is just pure nonsense. I think it's going to be harder to mask what's going on, but there's always truth woven into the deception, and a lot of it, I think. And I think this is all by design. In the astral and here, we see the same thing happening in different ways that information is disseminated. We have misinformation and disinformation, but it's not just that's disseminated through news organizations or through other conduits. It's always a lot of stuff that's real, that's true, with the misinformation or disinformation kind of woven into it. And obviously that makes it more digestible, makes it more palatable, just like taking a bitter pill with some good food or with some good drink or something like that. So you don't really taste it. And that's kind of what I think is happening, because the reason why this is so important is when I first started exploring this idea that, hey, wait a minute, maybe these are manipulations, maybe we are on some control system and the entities that we encounter are not benevolent. I said, but this can't be, because why would they give us these messages of loving each other? It's all about love. It's all about kindness. I'm like, how can that be a manipulation? That's, I think, intrinsically what I feel is the case. And as I've dove further and further into this, I've realized that, okay, well, just because they're saying something that's true or that's real, it doesn't discount the fact that there is embedded manipulations within the message. And so that's what I wanted to highlight here, because we are going to end on a message that she is sending out to the masses, which I think is a right message. I think it's a good message. It has to do with, you know what, Pink Tourmaline, self-love, which I think is absolutely fundamental and important. But just because the message is coming from these entities, it doesn't validate everything else that the entities are saying or doing. So I just want you to bear that in mind. We're going to come back to that at the end. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to start with this portion here. You guys are familiar, I'm sure, at this point with love bombing, but in case you aren't, really quickly, this is in her NDE, we're going to see two things happening right here. We're going to see the massive love bombing, where the entities basically fill you with love and positivity, make you feel better than you've ever felt. And obviously it's in stark contrast to how you feel on Earth for the most part. And I think in a way to make you compliant and to make you say, oh my God, this is so incredible, you must be divine, like I'll just do whatever you say. And then the other thing is they use projections of deceased relatives. And I'm going to explain why I think these are especially likely to be projections of loved ones as opposed to the actual loved ones. Check this out.
I got to the end and I was in this atmosphere of bright white. It was like I gave this giant sigh of relief, because I felt like I was finally where I was supposed to be. It was like, this is what I'm made of. This is where I belong. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm made of. I never fit on planet Earth, but I fit here. It's like if a wave comes up on the beach and then it recedes and it leaves little spatterings of drops of water in little, holes in the beach. And I feel like I had been one of those drops of water, in a dry, harsh environment that I didn't belong in for so long. And then suddenly the ocean came and grabbed me and pulled me back.
And I just want to say here too, this is probably what we all would feel. We all, no matter how acclimated some of us are, some more than others, right? I've said many times on this channel that I do really enjoy my life. Maybe I'm on that side that I am enjoying Earth more so than the average person. Obviously, also too, I think part of that is the family that I was born into, and just the way that my life has turned out in a lot of ways. Like I have good people around me, I have great friends and things like that. So obviously there's going to be a spectrum of that, but I think deep down we all feel out of place. We all feel that this world is so out of alignment in so many of the ways that I've discussed. So certainly you go into this light and you feel this wholeness and this oneness and this connection. I think we're all going to feel like that. And look, it could be we're going back to reality and this is the true nature of where we really come from, and it's all good and it's all love. It could be that, right? I can't discount that 100%, but I'm starting to, or not starting to, I do at this current time think that this is more of, because of everybody's going to feel like that, this is more of a manipulation tactic than us actually returning and be like, we're back, this is amazing and everything feels good now.
As I was feeling that and just luxuriating in it, in this love and peace, and just feeling embraced by the air around me, I noticed this commotion over here, and I looked over, and there are all these people. It must have been like 50 or 100 people, and they're all like, "Hi, how are you?" And I started recognizing them. And of course, the first one I saw was my adoptive mother, who had died when I was 12. Both my grandfathers, both my grandmothers at that point, um, a couple of aunts and uncles who had passed. And it was all like, "Oh, we're so happy to see you. We have watched over you, every single day. And, we're so proud of you." And I was like, "There's nothing to be proud of." It's like I'm a total screw up. I haven't accomplished anything.
Okay. Why do I think these are projections? And again, I'm quoting somebody who's quoting a book, so forgive me because I still haven't read this book yet, but I'm going to quote Jason Georgiani talking about, I believe the book is The Children Who Remember Past Lives, or some I think that's the title of the book. Anyways, Jason Georgiani in a Jesse Michaels interview says that in this book, from many, many, many studies, they've shown that on average, people tend to, the time in the astral is about 6 months to maybe a handful of years, 3 years, maybe 5 years at most. She's talking about seeing a stepmother that passed away when she was 12. She looks like she's maybe, I don't know, but definitely it's been more than 5 years, okay, since that time when she was 12, obviously. So that's what, and then all these other relatives that died when she was very, very young. That's what leads me to believe that these are very, almost certainly projections as opposed to the real individuals themselves that are there to greet her. In fact, I don't think any actual souls greet you at this point because it's a very controlled environment where they want to manipulate you and direct you in these certain ways. So you're just really all there by yourself with all these weird entities and AI projections or whatever the projections are. So anyways, that is, it's really messed up when you think about it. If this is in fact what's truly happening, which I'm leaning towards thinking, yes, that is what's happening, that you're just bombarded with all just this nonsense and pure lies. But what is she to think? I'm not, and I don't blame her for falling prey to that. What are you supposed to think? You see all these relatives, you're love bombed, you're feeling all these amazing emotions. It's just going to win you over, and it's going to make you so compliant after having a difficult life on earth that anything they say you're going to go along with. And I think that's truly what is happening in these cases. Now, next part, this is wild. She then goes to this other section and she's surrounded by 12 tall beings. We hear this all the time. We hear this in the pre-birth memories and the NDEs. They're tall beings. Sometimes they're hooded beings. So you didn't mention if they're hooded. I wonder if they were. But I feel like this is also such a part of the manipulation because why tall? Why are they taller than us? It's again, I think, to show some sort of authority. It's to project some sort of authority. Just like the example of when you stand up tall to scare a bear, just you make yourself look bigger. That's what they're doing. You can grow and change your dimensions as is described in other OBs or other NDEs as well in these realms. So she probably doesn't even realize that she could do that, but they're just projecting this image and showing that they're bigger than her, I think, to make her more compliant and make her feel subservient to these entities. But anyways, check this out.
See that there were people inside, and I thought, well, I guess those are the people I'm supposed to see. So I walked up there, and there were 12 beings in there, and they were all very tall, but they weren't they weren't scary. You would think that tall would be very intimidating, but they were not, because they just oozed love. It's like it came out of their pores.
Love bombing, right? I know it sucks to say that because it sounds so beautiful to just be bombarded with this type of psychic energy of pure love. But again, why are the tallness is just so weird. There's no reason for them to be taller than you other than to put some sort of a manipulation or some sort of have some sort of a psychological impact on you. I think, 'cause why? You could just be like, it just doesn't make sense. And then they're sending you all these positive emotions. It's love bombing.
And it just enveloped me. And I stood in the circle with them around me, and for the longest time they just kind of beheld me. All of my own shame and self-judgment came pouring out, but they were not judging me. I was judging me, but they were not judging me. They could see deep into my soul, and they knew everything I had ever thought, everything I had done, everything I hadn't done, everything I wished I had done, everything I wished I hadn't done, everything. And they loved every bit of it. It was very uncomfortable because we're not used to either that kind of scrutiny or anybody like seeing us that clearly or that deeply here, let alone loving us that unconditionally. It was very uncomfortable at the beginning.
I mean, that just sounds to me like pure love bombing. You guys tell me if you disagree, but I think then they get your compliance, and then you're going to see what happens next, because she's going to start talking to them. Actually, it's in the next section where you're going to really see where they kind of pull the wool over her eyes. But now she starts to have a conversation with them, and she's feeling all these amazing emotions. It's incredible. And that, of course, begs the question, well, this is so amazing. This is so awesome. Why the heck did you throw me in there to give me such a hard life? You tell me if this explanation makes sense or not. We're going to discuss it after you hear it from her.
I have to ask you, I mean, my childhood was pretty awful in a lot of ways, because I was criticized. I didn't fit in. It seemed I could never do anything right. And, I wasn't physically abused, but I was certainly emotionally abused. And, now that I understand that, I guess I set these things up in my life. Why would I do that? Was I a masochist? And they said, no, you were determined to master self-love in this lifetime.
And guess what? That's what they're telling her. She can't argue and she can't say anything because her memory was wiped, right? Memory is wiped at some point in between incarnations. So they're telling her this. She has no idea if this actually happened. Remember that, right? They didn't retrieve that memory and put it back in her. This is what they're telling her. But at this point, she's completely compliant. She's going to accept anything they say, no fault of hers. But that's by virtue of the love bombing and everything else that has happened. But okay, so they say, let's just even assume for a second that this is legitimate. So they're saying that she was just determined to master self-love. Okay, let's hear more of the explanation.
Because the things you wanted to do later in this life, you would have to have self-love. And you had tried. This is not an easy lesson. And you had tried many times. in many lifetimes to master this, but you hadn't been able to. So this time you were determined that you were going to master it or die trying. And I said, well, yeah, it almost killed me. it was bad.
There's something else that I want to point out here too, and what they're telling here. They're saying you tried in so many lives to master it, and you just couldn't master it. So they're basically saying that this one, maybe she achieved, according, like, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. According to them, she had been trying over and over and over, but we don't really. So then she just keeps failing and failing and failing. But then under the paradigm that we've come to see in Journey of Souls and stuff like that, you're picking your life to work on certain skill sets. And so much of your life is set up and predetermined to have these checkpoints and markers. But yet, in spite of all that, you're outlining these objectives, and you just keep failing and failing and failing with all of the pre-selection that's in there ahead of time, with the guides and with the system. Like, it just doesn't add up. How many lives do you need to go through? And how can the system be so poor at setting up a life for you where you're going to master this one skill set of self-love? I mean, you could argue on the other side, maybe it's just that difficult. It's that hard. It's much harder than we think. I don't know. That just seems so suspicious. She keeps trying. And now in this one, she's just so determined. And then we're going to get to the reason why. I also want to talk about their rationale as to, oh, this is why you needed it. This is the only way to master. Really? You have to have a difficult family. You have to feel unloved. Maybe, but for sure, I could definitely see other ways where you could master self-love in a loving family.
And they said, I said, but wouldn't I have put myself in a family that would affirm me and support me and tell me how wonderful I was and how I could do anything, and that kind of an atmosphere? And they said no, because then you would spend the rest of your life looking for love from outside yourself rather than being forced to ignite the spark of self-love within you. Because when you don't feel like you're getting love or validation from anybody else outside, the only person you have left is yourself, and you've got to find it in there.
Okay, I mean, I can kind of see that, but on the flip side, you see so many people that don't experience love as a child, and then they end up seeking it in all sorts of unhealthy ways in the future. I mean, that logic doesn't really resonate. And maybe you could say, I don't know what I'm talking about. That is possible, but I'm not sure I buy that. Instead, if you have loving parents, why does that mean you would automatically be seeking validation for the rest of your life? It depends on how they parent you. They could say, hey, listen, we love you no matter what. Don't look to us for any sort of approval. You need to make yourself happy. It's all about you because you've already got everything you need. Something along those lines. Certainly, I think that would be a better guiding force for you to cultivate self-love than just throw you in the mix with this difficult childhood, right? Like that doesn't really add up. And you could say maybe there's some cosmic level of developing these skills that I just don't understand. And that could be, I'm just trying with my limited intellect on this planet, right? We all are bound by our limitations. I'm trying to understand it, but I got to say, it doesn't pass the test for me. It doesn't seem right. You tell me what your thoughts are in the comments and if you agree with me or not, but that seems very, very sus. Okay, now here's the big one. Yo, she is straight manipulated and bamboozled into coming back here. You judge for yourself, but it's like, it's messed up. I don't even know what to say. It's messed up. Listen to what happened.
I really do not want to go back because, people are mean. It doesn't feel like there's any love on that planet at all. And trying to do anything is like walking through hip deep molasses or peanut butter. And I just, it's like, I'm not going back and you can't make me. And they said, that's fine. You don't have to go back. You have free will. You are a divine, powerful being. If you don't want to go back, you don't have to. And just as I started to relax into that, I hear, let us tell you what you can accomplish if you go back. Let us show you that. I woke up in the emergency room and I started to swear because I could not believe that I had ended up back in my body. And it felt like I had tried to put an elephant into a Coca-Cola can. Because while I was out of my body, I was this big, expansive being, all of myself. And suddenly, I had to compress all of that down into this tiny thing. So it felt awful. I was back in the sludge. I was back in the molasses. And the nurse came over. And I'm like, why am I here? And she's like, you were in a car accident. And I'm like, no, why am I here? You're in the hospital because you were in a car accident.
Did you catch that? And this is something that we talked about in my interview with Tony. Very, very important. I don't want to go back. No, she says no. No problem. You got free will. But can we just show you something, the impact that you would have? She probably said yes, or probably said, okay, fine, you can show me. And then boom, she's back in her body. There was no, hey, we're going to show you this. And then at least, unless they cut that out or something of this whole thing, maybe they did show it to her and she actually agreed. But if she didn't explicitly agree, this lines up with exactly what Tony was saying, that you can comply and consent without explicit consent, meaning if they say, hey, can you tell me your birthday, and you just give your birthday, that is a form of compliance, and that passes the law of free will test and then allows them to put a hook in you, as Tony said. So what I think happened here, the way at least it's described, is that they said, can I show you the impact you'd make? Okay, fine, show me. Boop, back in her body. She consented. So it's very important. You can call it force. It's not really force, though. I still don't think they can force you. I think they need to get you to agree or consent to something. But this is a big message and a big takeaway from this NDE. Don't agree or consent to anything. Even they said, okay, fine, don't have to go back. You do what you do what you want to do, but just hold my hand. Just hold my hand. Okay, fine. Nope, don't even do that. And I think that's the big message here. And then boom, she was thrown back into her body. Like, that's crazy. They even said to her, you don't have to go back. You got free will. But then she consented a little bit and got, that's nuts. All right. Now, also in this next segment, she talks about that she came back with almost no injuries, and she said she must have negotiated the no injuries. But this is the part that's bizarre to me. And so many NDEs and so many pre-birth memories too, they talk about this negotiating. No, I want this. I want to be good looking. I want to be really smart. I don't want to remember. I want to keep my memories and all this stuff. It's like, why is there negotiation happening if these forces are truly out there, benevolent, trying to pick the perfect life for you where you can grow in these specific ways? Why is there even, like, it just, the fact that there are these negotiations and these back and forths and asking for this and not asking for that, it just seems bizarre. Because if it's truly, they're all knowing, I get it that there's free will, but there's something that feels off about that it shouldn't even, if they could explain it perfectly to you, which if they're all knowing, all benevolent, all love, then you would just wholeheartedly accept, I would imagine. But we hear so many stories of this negotiating, and I want a little bit of this and less of that. Just something is not computing. And I think it's because the discernment is picking up on something off, and therefore not fully buying into everything, buying into some of it, but not fully buying into anything. That's what I think is the indication, but you guys judge for yourself.
I was very lucky. I think in years since then, I've realized I must have negotiated during that time that I don't remember. I think I negotiated a few things that, like, if I'm going back, this has to happen. And one of those was that I don't want to have to deal with a lot of physical injuries. And I didn't. I had a concussion, and I had knocked my knees into the front of the car and hurt the cartilage, but it wasn't bad, really.
So there you go. That's what, and again, we have to also take it with a grain of salt because she says, I think I must have negotiated. She didn't say 100%. But even if it didn't happen explicitly here, we've seen many cases of this type of negotiation. That's a red flag for me. That's a big red flag, again, showing that there's something fishy going on here. Now we're going to end on a positive note, as you know I like to do in many of these videos. And this is one of the positive messages that was relayed to her from these entities that she's spreading to everybody. And I think this is the real bit. This is the bit of the news, right, on every news broadcast where they end with they give you a bunch of crap and horrible stories and murders and all this stuff. And then they end with this beautiful message. We're now on to a heartwarming story and blah, blah, blah. And you say, oh, the news is not so bad. See, they're showing these beautiful side of life. And it's like, well, that's kind of woven in there, I think, to build some credibility or to keep you coming back or to end on a good, so some sort of weird manipulation. I think that's what's happening here. Nevertheless, we can still take this message and still apply it because I do think it's valid, but don't let that whitewash the entire experience and all the other things that she encountered during this NDE.
And so that's one of the things that I've really worked on for the last 40 years was really learning what it means to have self-love. And so my biggest message to anybody right now is cultivate self-love, not selfish, not love at the expense of other people, but loving who you are, embracing who you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We all have all those parts, and they're all parts. Embrace all of those and love those parts, and those parts of ourselves. We can love and accept those parts in other people and allow other people to have those parts and to be who they are.
All right, so it's a beautiful message, and I think it's something that we should strive for. And you might say, well, why would they give these positive messages if their aim is truly to keep the world in disarray and keep the Loosh farm pumping? Well, I think it's kind of similar to what we see on this planet where people, politicians or whatnot, will project a positive message and say, we need to do better and we're really fighting for humanity when they're maybe just pursuing selfish interests, because it doesn't really matter. They can say it and we know that these positive messages are intrinsically true, but it doesn't really change much because the system is set up. It's rigged to some extent against us. And that is, I think, the case with the matrix and the system that we are in out here. So yes, I think self-love to a large extent can and loving each other and being kind to each other can disrupt things. But because the system, at least right now, is so robust and there's so many people that aren't following these guidelines or protocols, that I'm guessing probably it can project or promote this message without really suffering any major effect to the system and to the Loosh farm that is here. That's what I think. So you might say, wait a minute, they wouldn't be telling us this if they really wanted the Loosh farm going. It's like, well, it has a different purpose. It has a different motive. It's to blend with the negative messages and all the other things that are going on to give it a higher degree of credibility. But also, it's a low risk delivery method, or it's a low risk proposition, because we can hear that, but most of the system, the game, the world, the way it is so difficult as it's really hard for us to put these suggestions or these protocols into practice. That's what I think anyway. So that's why, if you're wondering why those positive messages are blended in there, that's just what I think, at least for now. But we got a long way to go on this journey, a very long way, much more to cover, much more to learn. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of this NDE? Did you find it as interesting and kind of as unsettling as I did, or do you feel differently? And if you do feel differently, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you guys so much for joining. And the next time I see you will be a live stream after I return from Monroe. Let's go. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.